down to dunk.
And I'm down to dunk. I'm down to dunk.
This is J-Dub, and I'm down to dunk.
I'm Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, and I'm down to dunk.
This is Lindy Waters, and I'm down to dunk. I'm Mike Muscala, and I'm down to dunk.
This is Jay Will, and I'm down to dunk.
This is Kenneth Williams, and I'm down to dunk.
This is Lou Dort, and I'm down to dunk.
We say this is Lou Dort, and I'm down to Dort.
This is Lou Dort, and I'm down to Dort.
Cracklin Oat Bran?
Have you had Cracklin Oat Bran?
No,
No. Okay.
but it's healthy.
Are you a big oat brand guy?
I'm a big Oat Bran guy.
Okay.
I think I would switch it with Fruity Pebbles.
Okay, eat faster. Don't put as much in the bowl.
Do you have a gallon of milk I can also take home?
You don't have milk at home?
One cinnamon toast.
Okay.
Crunch. Yeah. Cereal is great. Yeah.
Welcome to Down to Dunk. I'm your host, Andrew Schlecht. We're part of the Athletic Podcast Network. With me, as always, on Wednesdays, my good friend Alex Speers. Alex, oh, what's up?
What's up, Andrew? This is huge news for the Wednesday pod, Andrew, because we have never had this entire season 2 games from Monday to Wednesday.
It's true.
It's a first. Now, we're not going to talk about one of them at all, but we could theoretically have 2 games to talk about.
Do it. There's one of those games that was so bad. I wiped it from my memory.
Dude, that was the first game, talking about the Warriors game, of course, that I stopped watching. I turned it off in the fourth quarter, and I watched a 20-minute video of a guy on YouTube making pizza. And that's what I chose to do with the rest of my night instead.
A much better option.
Yeah.
A much better option. We're not going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the Thunder's 133-130 win in Los Angeles on LeBron night, man. It was
on LeBron night, like 2 days before the deadline, like just a packed week, Andrew.
Great. It was a great win, especially coming off the loss. Second out of a back-to-back, too, for the Thunder.
Yeah.
And they meant business, man. They meant business. We can talk about the LeBron stuff and all that. I'm sure you can listen to 10,000 podcasts about that today. We're going to talk about the Thunder mostly. The Thunder wanted this game, and you can tell, and you tweeted this, you could tell by the way that Mark coached it and the way that he ran the rotations.
Dude, it was awesome. Like, I tweeted that out, and I didn't mean like these are going to be the 8 guys who he would play in a playing game, just that he really only played 8 guys. And I started to go back, but then I gave up after like going through like 10 box scores. I don't think this has happened yet this year. Like where he only basically played 8 guys. He did play 9 guys because Trey Mann played 5 minutes.
Yeah.
But for all intents and purposes, played 8 guys. He played J-Dub 40 minutes in a basketball game. That alone was like, wow. Yeah. If this might be, or that might have been the first true game of consequence. Like from their perspective, based on how they approached it.
Yeah, Mark wanted to win this one. Like he gave Trey just like a few minutes, like, okay, let's see if Trey's got it. It's like Trey doesn't got it. Gave him the hook. And it was really fun to see this team play this way, especially. So the game was weird. The league clearly said the game is secondary. The game itself is secondary to what's going on. And they made that extremely clear with 10 seconds left in the third quarter. They did the whole LeBron celebration, and rightfully so. Like, I'm not going to be the one that's going to sit up here and gripe about why don't they wait till the end of the game? You know, like, God, come on. Like, this is going to happen. Like, if this may not happen again in our lifetime that somebody is able to do this.
It shouldn't. I remember
record. It's an absurd
I remember
record.
Growing up, you know, especially like when LeBron was like in his mid-20s, when people used to talk about this record and they look at who the next guy could potentially be, they would talk about LeBron, but then you'd start to do the math. And back then it seemed impossible. It was like, there's no way he's going to get there.
He's not going to do this at 38. Like, sorry, like this is, and he's going to play more. You know, he's going to play a lot more, and this record's going to be even more unattainable, you know, as the years go on, because he'll probably play 2, 3. I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if he played 4 more years, just the way that he physically looks.
I know, and with Poku's injury, I mean, he's so far behind the ball right now. When he comes back, he's really going to have to start just putting in
Hey,
the work.
Poku's strolling down the street in OKC with his girlfriend. So,
Yeah, I hope that was safe. I hope someone was paying attention to the cars behind them, or maybe they were on the side of the road where the cars would be coming towards them, and then it would be safer, I guess.
I don't think they were looking, watching
Poku.
that little. I don't even know if you can call it a video. It was like barely a video.
Yeah.
With Poku, we're talking about this video Poku posted on Instagram of he and his girlfriend walking down the middle of the road in downtown Oklahoma City. John Hollinger got in there and made fun of Oklahoma City.
It is one of the nice things. You can just walk around.
You just
not
walk
have to worry about getting
anywhere.
hit in the middle of the day.
Close your eyes and just walk, and you're going to be just fine. But yeah, this game was unreal. I mean, Shea was unbelievable. He had 32 and 8, 2 steals. Giddey, I thought, was awesome in this game. 10 of 19 from the field, 20 points, 5 boards, 6 assists. Obviously, J-Dub was incredible. He had a career high 6 steals in this game.
That was what was so awesome about this game was every single guy showed up.
Yeah.
And I'm really interested to see what the ratings were for that game.
Yeah.
Because I have a feeling this is the most amount of people that have watched the Thunder since 2016. Now, I know that seems like crazy because they played in playoff games since then. But a lot of those playoff games, like especially like if you think back to the bubble year, like those ratings weren't good.
Mm-mm.
And so I wonder if you have to go all the way back to 2016 when they were in the conference finals that this many people watched this team. I
would bet a lot of money that that's the case.
Which is awesome because that's like when you're a fan of a team that is going through a deep rebuilding process like this, you just want like, and things start to turn around. You just want other people outside of your fan base to take notice. Like, hey,
notice me.
Yeah. And so this just lined up so perfectly with how this team is playing these last couple of months outside of the Warriors game. And for it to all come together last night was just so great. Like everyone, like I have to imagine there are national people who were seeing the Thunder, maybe not for the first time, but for like the first handful of times, who came away from that game being like, wow, the Thunder's young core is really good. I didn't realize how good this young core is because everyone showed up. Like I saw people tweeting about J. Will. Like a month ago, we wouldn't have been talking about J. Will.
No, we were not. He was on one last night.
He was putting up like his G League numbers when we used to talk about like, wow, J. Will just did something crazy in the G League. Yeah. That was last night. He had 14, 7, and 7. That's nuts.
He was really good.
And he hit 2 threes. He had 2 steals, and he got to the line 4 times.
Feels like he never misses right now. He's just been on one. And it's great. And the passing stuff, so the stuff that's sustainable is the passing, the defense. You know, he took a charge on LeBron.
That was cool.
Which was pretty cool. All that stuff is super sustainable. I don't know about the shooting. Like I don't know about the shooting. Joe Masato and I talk about it like almost after every game. And he's like, "What do you think?" Like, I don't know. I don't believe it yet. I just need to see more. But
it's kind of like Giddey's thing where you're happy when Giddey's shot is going down, but then you look up, Jay tweeted this to our group chat this morning that he's shooting 27% since January 1st.
Yeah.
So I think Jay Will's in that same boat where you kind of have to prepare yourself mentally. Like there's going to be a downswing at some point.
Yeah. 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 Yanni in the chat said that Jay Will legitimately outplayed Anthony Davis.
Dude, he did. I saw you sent that
sentence.
I saw you sent that picture that Justin Rowan posted.
Yeah.
I guess Anthony Irwin.
Yeah. Irwin.
Had originally posted it, and it looks like a photo of AD on the sideline. Like not.
That's a video.
Oh, it's a video. Oh, I didn't even know it was a video. I didn't.
You got to watch the video because what happens is he's standing up as LeBron's bringing the ball up the court, and he gets to that step back on Kenrich.
Yeah,
makes the shot, and then AD immediately sits down.
Really?
Yes. Like sits down on the bench after he makes the shot. Like saw that he made the shot and then went and sat down on the bench. The only guy sitting down.
Well, he must be a big Kareem fan.
Just can't believe that somebody would do this to Kareem.
I mean, listen, he wasn't like, it wasn't a total no-show. Like he had 13-8, 2 assists, 2 steals, and a block.
Oh,
but
it's Anthony Davis. That's a no-show. He took 9 shots.
Well, it was just like if you thought about this team's strengths and weaknesses throughout this season.
Yeah.
Obviously, we target like these big centers as the guys who scare us the most. Like, oh my gosh, what is Embiid going to do against us? Oh my gosh, what is Jokic going to do against us? I feel like AD would probably be like around 3rd on that list, or maybe 4th behind Giannis. And for him to come out and he's just a guy. He's just a regular guy out there. He was like fine. I was rewatching the game, and he was like fine in the first quarter, and then it just kind of evaporated. I just didn't even notice him. Yeah. I would forget that he was on the court. And this is a huge game for them, not just because of LeBron, but like they're right there with us in the standings. Yeah. They have to pass us. This is a chance to make up an entire game on us.
Mm-hmm.
And it just didn't seem. Well, it seemed like one team wanted it a lot more.
Yeah, it felt like a big letdown after, because the crowd was so into it. Like there was so much like emotion in like almost every possession that LeBron had, and LeBron was obviously just like completely gassed after that. He was done. Like he took himself out of the game, and he was just like, "Yeah, I'm done." Westbrook like kept going. Like Russ played well last night, and gave them even a chance there at the end, but nobody else seemed to really have it going. Like Schroeder wasn't very good last night. Rui was fine. But yeah, it was this Lakers roster is just really bad. It's just when you have to play, and like no offense to Troy Brown Jr., but like Troy Brown should not be playing 22 minutes for your basketball team.
Probably not. He's an old wizard. There's a lot of old wizards on this team.
That's the other thing. It's like there's way too many wizards, man. Like,
there's a lot of wizard energy on this team.
There's way too much. You can go to theathletic.com/down to dunk. Get the Athletic for $1 a month for 6 months. My guy Eric Name, who covers the Bucks, was there. Was in LA. He's there for the Bucks Lakers game later this week. But wrote a piece about Kenrich Williams being the guy to defend LeBron and just be cemented in history as someone to who contested the shot that went down. So
well, it's funny when that play happened and you realized it was going to be Kenrich who was going to be like in the photo.
Yeah,
I just thought back to your interview with him and like just how psyched he was to be in the position he was in the NBA. And as people were saying, like, "Oh man, that's a bummer that Kenrich is the guy in that video or the guy in that shot," I was thinking like he's probably like when he thinks about it, he's probably pretty pumped that like he was that guy in that piece of history of NBA history, coming from where he came from.
Yeah.
To now be, I know it's not like him hitting the shot to be the record leader, but just to be like a part of that moment is pretty cool. I have to imagine.
Well, he admitted that after the game. So Eric talked to him after the game, and he said, "I told my wife, you can take it 2 ways. You hold him under what he needed to score. What was that, 36?
Yeah.
Or you can be a part of history." He said, "So I guess I'm always looking at the positives. I'm part of history."
Yeah, that's cool. I had a feeling he would take it that way.
Yeah. He's the best. And Mark, I kind of gushed about him too after the game. And this is all in Eric's piece. I don't want to read the whole piece to everybody because I want you to go read it because it's
read it out, Andrew.
But this is what he said about Kenrich. He said, "You can never plan it, but one thing I'll say about Kenrich is when I think about him as a competitor, his vulnerability as a competitor is one of his best qualities. He doesn't back away from a challenge and doesn't fear failure. I think it's fitting that his nose is in the fight on that play." It's like, yeah, that's a great way to kind of illustrate Kenrich and who he is to this team.
And cool. Thunder fans before that game were rightly talking about how Dort's loss would probably be definitely felt tonight.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh, LeBron's probably going to do it. But how it ended up was kind of perfect, where you still got to be a part of that moment as a Thunder player or as a Thunder fan watching it. But you still also got to see all your young guys just completely excel on the biggest stage for them so far. I mean, I think the win in Philadelphia when Philly was completely healthy is probably like the more impressive basketball win.
No
But in
question.
terms of like the amount of attention on this game, I mean, I think it was like over 200 credentialed media members. Like the amount of people watching this game would be equivalent to a playoff game.
Yeah.
And to see Oklahoma City take it as seriously as a playoff game with their rotations and meet that challenge, I mean, that is huge. Like this has to be one of the most memorable wins of the season when we get to the end of the season.
Oh, no doubt. No doubt. And just the fact that, again, like circling back to the way that Mark coached this game, like he wasn't messing around. He wasn't messing around. Like no Baisley, not playing either of the two-way guys. Like gave Trey Mann like a quick hook.
Yes.
And like there's part of you that does think like, man, if they could use probably one more guy. But it's like, oh yeah, Dort, could have played in this game had he been healthy. And
yeah. I think like
that's kind
I
of
think if there's a playing
guy.
game tomorrow, or not tomorrow, I guess whenever Dort gets healthy, you would see Dort playing 30 plus minutes, and they'd probably take out Wiggins' minutes, and maybe J-Dub wouldn't play 40, and then you would take out Trey Mann. Like you could come up with an 8-man rotation pretty quickly.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
But the good thing is like you have a guy like Aaron Wiggins that I think you trust to play.
Yeah.
Because before, like, man, you're just thinking about, and this isn't even like the full Thunder team. Like, this is not. There's no Chet. There's no the upcoming draft pick. They still have a ton of picks, but they already have like a group of 9 guys that you're like, yeah, I would actually trust all of them in a game that really matters. And if they lose, who cares? Like, I trust. Like, is it weird to say that I'm already like I kind of trust Jay Will in this situation?
Well, Andrew, in the game thread last night on Discord, multiple people I saw throughout the game were asking whether he was a guy. Is he approaching guy status? I mean, it's amazing. If he is approaching guy status, this is like one of the quickest turnarounds from not a guy to a guy.
It feels that way, right? Like it feels like a very quick turnaround from somebody who I was saying weeks ago that I'm not sure he's even going to make it on the roster. And now I think it was easy to say, yeah, we need Jeremiah Robinson Earl back. And I'm not saying like that J Rob is like done because
right, but it feels like a real battle now.
Yes.
In a way that it didn't before. Like it felt like Jay Will was almost like just a placeholder. Like he was soaking up those minutes while Jerry was out. Mm-hmm. Jerry was going to be the default option when he came back. Now I honestly don't know because Jay Will has been playing so well, and especially like as long as his threes at a 50% rate or whatever, you kind of have to roll with it.
Yeah. And the passing stuff, though, is the real thing, is that you can give him the ball kind of at the nail and let him find guys.
Yeah.
And the fact that, he's second in assists last night. I mean, you look at the starting lineup, it's pretty crazy. 7 assists for Jay Will, 2 for J-Dub, 5 for Kenrich, 8 for Shea, and 6 for Josh Giddey. Like, this is what they want. Like, this is the model of how they want to play. Is like everybody can make a decision. I've been hammering that point home so much, like here and then on the Dream Team, especially where McKelly and I are doing draft prospects on the Dream Team draft show. And like every single guy that we get to, it's like, okay, like you have to check the can they make a decision box, and if they don't, they won't play. Like they're not going to play on the Thunder. That's just not going to happen. And a guy like Jay Will is like showcasing that, like, yes, like this is a decision maker, and it was amazing. It's amazing last night. And then J-Dub as well. J-Dub, man, he continues to really impress. The shot making, his 3-pointer falling, the fact that he took 6 threes,
The fact that he took 19 shots.
Yeah, that he took 19 shots too, took more shots than Shea. Like that, it was incredible. Like it was incredible to see him play that way on that big stage. Again, 25, 7, and 2 with 6 steals and a block. I mean, if his ceiling is a lot higher than certainly I thought after the draft, but like it kind of continues to grow as the season goes on.
Yeah, he's giving me vibes of like almost like a Desmond Bain, like totally different players, but just in terms of the idea with Desmond Bain was like, oh, this is an older guy. Like the ceiling isn't going to be as high with him. And then like very quickly you realize, oh, we could have misjudged this guy's ceiling and it's going to be a lot higher than we thought. And the fact that he's, 22 or whatever, we shouldn't have worried about that at all. And with J-Dub, J-Dub's 21. He's going to be 22 on April 14th. But the development we've seen through this season, I mean, since December 29th, so that is now 20 games, he's shooting 37% from 3. So that's finally starting to come up.
Yep.
The finishing, though, is absurd.
There were some crazy finishes last night.
And like early in the season, I kept looking at his rim numbers because they would be like hovering around 70%. It's like how good is he? Like, is this a low number of attempts? But you saw it in a game like last night where he had a crazy finish over Thomas Bryant, where he like fully extended his arm to get up over him. He had a finish over LeBron and someone else on like kind of a fast break transition play. And even LeBron after that play, you could see was like kind of pissed. He was like, how did he get around me? And there were multiple plays. Like there were even more plays. Like every finish he had last night at the rim was super impressive.
It really
in a way
was.
that, I mean, the only person on the team that would rival him would be Shea.
Yeah. I don't know like where to place his ceiling as a player, but just to have a guy who's 6'6" that can handle like he does, that can pass like he does, that can do all of those things.
And what you're starting to see, and you kind of saw it last night, is to be a disruptive force on defense. Like there's been questions about his defense, and you kind of look at him and go like, well, it might work out just because he's 6'6" and has like a 7'2" or whatever wingspan.
Mm-hmm.
And last night was a game where that wingspan was like on full display, like jumping into passing lanes, getting out on the break. Having that type of a player is just so exciting. Like because he doesn't need to be the second best player on this team, probably. Like if we feel the way we feel about Chet, like he doesn't have to be the number 2, and yet he could potentially be down the road.
He definitely could be, but is also totally okay if he's the 4th best player.
Yeah.
The team.
But yeah, seeing him take that number of shots, I mean, he was tied. It's crazy. This has to be the first time this season this has happened where Shea is 3rd in shot attempts.
Yeah.
Like J-Dub and Giddey both took 19 shots, and then Shea was there at 17. That in and of itself, and that it happened on this stage, was really exciting.
Yeah. No, it was very cool to see. And the coolest thing about him is that he always finds ways to contribute. Like even if the shot's not falling, even if he's not taking a lot of shots, like he's always finding ways to contribute to the game and to the team. And so like, those are just really unique qualities for a guy like him. And I think, and Mark has even said in the past that they have to kind of force him to be aggressive with his shot at times.
Yeah.
And, we saw last night what it could be like if he does. And then also there's going to be room for him to connect everybody as well. Like everybody likes to talk about connector pieces in the NBA, and like he's definitely that, but he's also way more than that. It's pretty impressive that they have this guy with Shea and Giddey, and then you bring in Chet. Like that's a pretty ridiculous young core. Like, what young core would you rather have in the NBA today? Talking about guys that are like 24 and younger.
Yeah, I mean, I think the only team that even gets close is Orlando, because I do think with Paulo and Franz and whoever they add,
Yeah.
in this next draft. Like all of a sudden, that trio, obviously, especially if they get Wembanyama or Scoot, like that trio will be really formidable. And then you still like a lot of the other guys like Carter Jr. And so there's
Dude, I talked to I've become friends with a guy who's an Orlando Magic fan.
really
Yes. And he hates Wendell Carter Jr.
dude, I have heard I had someone DM me and I think they were a Orlando fan asking about Wendell Carter Jr. trades, and I just didn't get it.
They hate him. He said
why?
He would like for him. He said I'd trade him for nothing today.
Oh my
If I could,
gosh.
just to get him off the team. Like he just needs to be gone.
Jeez, I feel like this person has personal beef.
Yeah. So I thought that was really interesting because like I would think the same thing, especially like, watching them a few times this year. It's like, yeah, like he's a good player. But like,
But also like their
hate him.
splits, like the on-off numbers with him and Franz and Paulo have continued to be good the whole season.
Yeah.
So it's definitely not like an obvious you have to get rid of him thing.
I know. I just found that to be really interesting.
That's weird. But yeah, like other than the Magic, like they're the only team that I really feel like can have the potential to challenge OKC for that title once they get whoever they get in this upcoming draft.
Yeah. Yeah, that will determine a whole lot.
Yeah.
About it. But yeah, you look at everybody else. Like, I'm just trying to even think like what other young teams and their cores.
I mean,
that you.
I guess. Yeah. How old is Jared Allen now? I'm trying to think.
Cleveland was definitely one. Like even just Mobley and.
Well, okay. The Grizzlies.
Garland,
obviously, we should mention the Grizzlies with Ja, Bane, and Triple J. That's an obvious one.
Definitely. Yeah. Yeah, that trio is definitely like the best one today, I would say.
Yeah, because those guys are all youngish still.
Yeah. That's the best young core.
He's 24.
Yeah. The Thunder have the chance to eventually, I think they have a chance to jump the Grizzlies with the addition of Chet and like the growth of the guys they have.
Yeah.
Which might seem crazy and like a very homer take, but I really don't think it's when you like really take a look at it and like what the Thunder have like of substance with their young guys. I'm not even factoring in like Jang or Poku or Trey Man or any of those guys like actually figuring it out. Like you can take all those guys and just toss them to the side and say like what the Thunder actually have, what you feel good about with Shea and Giddey and J-Dub and Chet and Dort. And like that's quite a group that can grow together and they can still get a meaningful piece in this next draft. And the Thunder showed last year in a draft that people weren't completely enthused with, I would say. This next draft, people love the draft itself, the depth, like through like 15, people really like.
Oh, I know. I was joking on Discord because I feel like I see one of these tweets every week about like some guy, like it could be like Jarris Walker, and one of the draft people will be like, he is a definite top 5 pick. But I'll see that tweet about a different guy every single week. Like there's so many guys out there who people would at least consider as a top 5 pick.
Yeah, there's some really good players in this draft. And even if like right now the Thunder would have the 12th pick. I mean, that's where they took J-Dub. If they got a player, and I wouldn't expect them to get a player like the caliber of J-Dub. I think that's an unrealistic expectation for pick 12. But if you just got a contributor, like a good contributor at 12, like you still feel really good. You don't going into this season, I kind of felt like, man, they really need to get another top 5 pick to feel good about where this is all going. Like you don't really even like have to have that. It'd be great to have that. I mean, it would make this team ridiculous. but you can even add, I don't know, Anthony Black, I think will be there. And I know people are hot and cold on him, but I think he's going to be a really good pro. Like, you just add one more key contributor to this team, and it's like, man, like, watch out. Like, this Thunder team could be really good, really fast. And
Andrew, you just mentioned kind of like the core pieces when you're talking about the young core, and I realize you tried to sneak something by me, which is that you didn't include Isaiah Joe in that conversation. And Andrew, what does he have to do? Okay, what does he have to do for you to consider him part of the core? He goes out on the biggest stage of his career last night.
It was great.
5 3-pointers.
Yeah.
Plus 15, best plus minus on the team, which in this case, plus minus means everything. Sometimes it means nothing, but in this case, it means everything. What does he have to do, Andrew?
That's a good question. That's a really good question. I don't know. I don't know the answer to that.
He's shooting 45% from 3 on 4.6 attempts per game.
And he's not a complete sieve on defense. He can handle a little bit. He's a willing passer.
Yeah.
He has thrown down some just shocking dunks. Just some of the most shocking dunks I've ever seen in my life. He's dunked 4 times this year, and all 4 were just like life-changing for me. He has more dunks than Trey Mann this season.
Is that true?
That is true. That is true. Trey Mann has 3 dunks this season.
Trey Mann usually has good dunks though. That one he had very recently was great.
Yeah, that dunk that he had, was it like a week and a half ago or something? That should have counted as like 10 dunks. But,
that was great.
Yeah, I like Isaiah Joe. I like him, and he's still young. That's like a good reminder. Like he and Dort are the same age.
Wow.
I don't know. You have him on a cheap contract. He is the kind of player that we have talked about since the beginning of Thunder time, of like having a guy like him on the roster, right?
Dude, I mean, after Shea, just in terms of reliability, I don't know if there's someone that I trust more than Isaiah Joe to do what they do. Just to do what they do. I'm not saying he's better than J-Dub or better than Giddey. I'm just saying when he comes in, I know what he's doing, and I know that like 9 times out of 10, he is going to hit his threes. Like he'll have these random off games, but more often than not, it's games like last night. I mean, last night was kind of exceptional, taking 10 threes and hitting half of them.
He takes 84% of his shots from 3.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful. I love that.
Yeah, it's pretty great.
Yeah. I
like him too. I like him too. Like, if you were to place these players in like an order of like, not even necessarily like predicting who's going to be here.
Yeah.
Like predict like these are the players that I want to be here on the team when this team is competing in the playoffs. Like, who?
He might be 4th, Andrew. He might be 4th.
No, he's not. No.
Oh wait, okay, 5th. I forgot about Chet.
Well, name them.
Shea, Chet, Giddey, J-Dub, Isaiah Joe. That doesn't mean I think he's better than Dort. That doesn't mean I think that.
I think it does. I think that's exactly what
it doesn't. No, it doesn't. You said that I want to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want
the better player.
No, it doesn't.
No.
Because if that was the question, you should have just asked, rank these players by how good they are. That's a boring question.
Rank the players how good they are.
You said rank them by how much you want them to be on the next version. You know what? Number 6, Poku. Okay? I want Poku.
That's true. Poku might be number 1. I just want to see Poku be successful in this life. Oh, man. Yeah. No, I don't disagree. I just am, for whatever reason, I'm just cautious with my Isaiah.
Yeah, and I don't like it. I'm sick of it.
I can't really figure out why.
It's a problem though, and it's bothered me all year.
It kind of is a problem.
And I don't know
Kind
why
of
you
is
won't
one of
just accept Isaiah Joe into your life.
It is kind of one of
He's
my
done
problems.
everything that's been asked of him and has been rewarded. Even the team is admitting, because remember, early in the season, he'd be lucky to get 20 minutes.
Yeah.
He was getting like 15 to 20 minutes. Last night, 23 minutes.
23 minutes in a game that mattered, in a game that they Mark decided we're gonna win this game. We're gonna win this game with our best players. I don't disagree with anything you're saying. I don't. And honestly, he could go down as the Thunder's best free agent signing ever if things continue to play out like this.
Yes, I know every time we have this conversation, people bring up Paul George and people bring up Lou Dort.
Oh, come on.
But we're talking about traditional free agents. Traditional.
Yeah.
Where they have not played on the Thunder before. Anyone could sign them.
Yeah.
Although I guess that is the case with Lou Dort. Ugh. You know what we're talking about. Yeah,
I do. Yes. I think the undrafted stuff is not free. It's not free agency.
It is in a way, but whatever qualifiers you have to put on it.
A player that has already played on another team.
There we go.
Could choose. Okay.
Okay.
The Dort thing, I'm not calling that a free. Oh, best free agent signing, Lou Dort. Stop it right now.
You're gonna have to add another qualifier though, because Paul George technically did play on another team before signing again with the Thunder. So we're gonna have to figure this out.
Yeah, but I don't think you can say re-signing a player is free agency. It's not. No, he was handcuffed by Russ, and that's what happened. And that's okay. That's great. It helped the franchise tremendously. But also, he won it out a year later. So I don't think Isaiah Joe is going to be asking out this summer. I think he's.
I am interested though, based on that game, because it was nationally televised, because there were a lot of eyeballs on it. One, does Presti get any calls this week about Mike Muscala? Because he was balling last night too.
Yeah, he was.
He looked great. He had 16 points, hit 4 threes. I wonder if he gets any calls on Muscala or if he gets any calls on Isaiah Joe this week. Just based on.
I bet he will. I think he will get calls on both of those guys. I don't think anybody's going to offer a first rounder for either one of them, and I don't think it's obviously not worth just taking a second back for either of them.
Yeah.
Because Mike means a lot to the locker room and to the development stuff for these players, and just taking a second back for him, for a guy. I don't think the Thunder do or should take it lightly with a veteran guy that actually wants to be here.
Oh yeah.
Desires to be in Oklahoma City. Cried when I asked him a couple years ago about what this being with this franchise meant to him. You cannot take that lightly. You have to.
Especially when you look at a team.
Rounder. I mean, come on.
When you look at a team like Houston, I was reading Kelly Eco's trade piece this morning.
Yeah.
And just this back and forth thing with Eric Gordon, where yes, he's technically a veteran, but it's also the subtext of everything around Eric Gordon is as much as Houston wants veterans, they're kind of acknowledging that Eric Gordon isn't necessarily the type of veteran that they're talking about.
Yeah.
Because he's already been there and clearly it hasn't helped that much. And while he's helping them on the court, he does not appear to be playing that same role that Mike Muscala or even Kenrich are playing on the Thunder.
No, not even close. Not even close.
Man, I was thinking about what if Houston had been in that spot last night?
They would have gotten dismantled.
Because that was unique. That was unique. And to see your team step up in that moment was really big. And I don't know if every team in the league would have been able to step up. Where just every possession felt like there was extra weight on it.
Yeah.
Even though it was just a random February regular season game.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, it definitely was that, but definitely was not that. the celebrities, like I just wondered, like for this young team, like they'd never played in an environment like that before, where every possession meant so much, and you have like the A-list of A-list celebrities sitting all around you, and like how do they play? Like it honestly gave me more hope for the future, which is just so dumb to say that, but the fact that they stepped up in a game that had so much pressure, that had so many eyes on it, and they clearly were the better team. Like that, I thought that was meaningful, especially after losing the way they did to the Warriors, and then a week ago today they lost to the Rockets in Houston.
Oh god.
And like the way that they played there, you're just like, man, there is some like volatility to the way the Thunder play still. And the fact that in a moment that really did matter, they stepped up and won. I think part of it too is like they wanted to win on national TV. Like they had their chance against the Heat, and there was just some weird funny business going on in that game. Like they started Omarui in that game, and
the Heat game?
Yeah.
So I had kind of blocked that game from my memory, but I was going back through the game logs, and I was trying to see how last night stacked up in terms of assists.
Yeah.
Because they had 32 assists last night.
Yeah.
Which that ended up being their tied for 5th most this season, which was great. But I accidentally hit on the 3-point attempts instead.
Yeah.
Which reminded me that in that Miami game, they were 24 of 56. Is that right? That can't be right.
Why can't that be right?
Was that the Miami game on December 14th, or was that the televised game?
I believe it was, right?
No,
there was
a
that was in
different game.
January. It was in January.
Okay, well, I was reminded that in another game they lost to the Heat, this one by 2 points. The Heat shot 24 of 56, which was somehow worse than what Golden State did to us the other night.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, the Clay stuff from the other night was haunting.
That was miserable. So LeBron had his moment.
Yeah.
And I thought it was cool that Kareem was there, obviously.
Sure.
And I really enjoyed that Kareem Shaq conversation afterwards.
Yeah.
Because you could tell there was like something real behind that. Where they clearly don't like have a long-standing relationship with each other, but they also have a lot of respect for each other.
Yeah.
And Shaq seemed pretty genuine when he was talking about like, you not talking to me early in my career just like fueled me and made me want to impress you.
Yeah.
Which I thought was really cool, because Kareem, like when you see him now, he doesn't come across as intimidating in that way anymore.
Yeah. No, he does
like
not.
he actually seems like a pretty nice guy. But then you hear,
but he's not.
Well, that's the thing about the stories about him. I mean, Bill Simmons would always talk about this, and he always brought it up as like one of the reasons why Kareem got short shrift when people would talk about the greatest of all time was just that he wasn't like media savvy because he didn't want to be.
Yeah.
I mean, clearly in his post-playing career, he's been more media savvy. I mean, he has like, he writes a lot of articles. He's very vocal and like has a lot of things that he believes in and talks about.
Yeah.
But he still doesn't like, in the media, he still doesn't talk the way like some of the other legends talk.
Yeah.
Like there's still like this kind of mystery with Kareem, which I've always kind of enjoyed, because it's kind of just like what makes Kareem.
He's a strange guy.
But it does seem like everyone has like a kind of weird relationship with him. Like even with LeBron, when he like had that moment with him at half court, you could tell it wasn't like two guys who just like love each other and talk all the time.
Yeah, there wasn't like a big embrace. You know? Whereas if they did have like some relationship, like LeBron was like so emo last night,
He was.
And like if he had some kind of relationship with Kareem, they would have like embraced in some way. Instead, they like exchanged the ball, and then like LeBron awkwardly didn't know where to stand.
Yeah.
When they were taking pictures, and you could just tell the whole moment just felt really awkward. And it's like, that's totally Kareem's fault. Like, that's just the way that he operates. Yeah, and James Anderson in the chat says Shaq and Kareem are polar opposites personality wise, which is so true. Like if it was Shaq that he passed, if somehow Shaq was the leading scorer in NBA history, and there would have been like a big embrace.
Yeah,
like,
but I guess like
LeBron.
My point is that it doesn't come across as intentional to me by Kareem. It just seems like that's just the way he is. Like he's just not like a gregarious guy, like trying to make people like him. He just like is comfortable in his own skin, just doing what he wants to do, not really worried about everything around him.
Yeah. It was a strange moment. How did you feel? I mentioned it kind of off the top, but how did you feel about them like completely stopping the game? After he scored the points and doing the whole song.
In retrospect, I'm so glad it happened then than like 5 minutes left in the fourth quarter, because the note from the league before the game was that as long as it's not within like the final minute, we're going to stop the game. And can you imagine? Because there was a point in that fourth quarter where it did still feel like the game was in balance. If that had happened at a time like that, I mean, they were talking on the broadcast like, 36 points is a lot of points. This might come down to the end. It might come at a very important time of the game. Like, thank God it didn't.
I know.
Because that would have made it so much worse if you have to take a 5 to 10 minute break with 4 minutes left. They would have
done it. Like even with like if it was like 7 minutes left and it's like a 3-point game.
Yeah.
He hits the jumper to bring it within 1 and they stop everything. You're just like, oh my gosh. At least you had like a full 12 minutes.
Right. Yeah. So the timing ended up kind of working out. So shout out to LeBron, who at 38, you can kind of count on to get the points he needs. Like that's kind of one of the craziest parts of this whole thing is that once he scored like his first 10, I think he only needed like 16 or 18 with like 7 minutes left in the second quarter. So you already kind of knew like, okay, he's getting it tonight. And the fact that you can even say that about a 38-year-old, like, 36 isn't going to be an issue for him tonight.
Yeah. But it hit a certain point pretty quick. They were just like, all right, this is happening. And I'm glad as a Thunder observer, I'm glad that it happened with the Thunder. I think that it was like this night was not about the Thunder at all. Again, it wasn't supposed to be, but it became one of like the sub storylines of all of this that will just kind of get carried through the rest of the week. When people talk about LeBron, like they're going to want to talk about LeBron, then they're going to be like, oh, and the Lakers suck and the Thunder are actually like pretty good. Like that's going to be how this is kind of carried through the national media. Like I listened to Brian Windhorst's show this morning and that's basically what they said.
Because it wasn't like an ugly game. Like OKC actually stepped up and looked good.
Yeah.
Whereas like in that Miami game, like if for some reason LeBron had been on the Heat and he was going for that record and that was the game we got.
Like, and thank God it didn't happen on a free throw too. Like it all happened. It all happened as it should have last night. There are ways that it could have. Like you think about how points can be scored, and like you can score them on like the worst ways, like free throw or
technical free throw.
Yeah, technical free throw. It's like, oh my God. It would have been terrible. Or like a goaltend. Like you can score points on like a goaltend. Like if Jay Will like somehow like goaltended a LeBron bucket. Like that's the way that it happened. Like there are a lot of ways to score points in the game of basketball. And it was definitely like it was written, like if you would have written the story about how he would have gotten it, the fact that he got it on, how many times have we seen that particular shot from LeBron? Like thousands of times.
The worst would have been the first free throw of 2 free throws. So he hits the first free throw, then you have to stop it. And you have to
come back 10 minutes later and shoot the additional free throw. But it did feel like after they had gone through the whole thing, which was fine, like they did the video, LeBron had his little speech that he dropped the F-bomb at the end, like it was fine. It was all fine. But then it did feel like, okay, it's almost like a different game was starting, with the feel, like the feel of the crowd was completely different, even watching on television. The whole thing felt like a brand new game. It was like, okay, now we're going to play a 12-minute game of basketball. and it was like close enough to where you're like, yeah, all right, let's go. Let's see who's the better team. And the Thunder, it was close. I think Rui Hachimura hit a shot to bring it within one or to tie it. And then the Thunder went on a 12-0 run without Shea in the game, which I thought was just super impressive.
Yeah, because earlier in the game, that second unit had kind of struggled. So to see them come out and be the ones that push that lead back up was very nice.
Yeah. Yeah, that was really, really cool.
It's crazy that we are a day before the trade deadline. We haven't even mentioned it, and I don't even know if there's much to say.
Well, I was going to say, let's talk about the trade deadline. Let's do that right after this quick break. And we're back after that quick break. Alex, the trade deadline is in 28 hours from now.
Yeah. Snuck up on me.
Yeah. Yeah, pretty interesting. From a Thunder standpoint, not interesting, I don't think. We've talked about Bazley being a guy that could be dealt. Like, I'm like 50-50 on if that even happens. Where are you at with regards to the trade deadline and what the Thunder could do or should do?
Yeah, I mean, in trade deadlines past, even if you didn't think they were going to make a big move, you could talk yourself into, okay, well, maybe they'll use their cap space in some way. But because they're so close to the tax, that type of deal just doesn't really make sense because it actually is adding real money. Like you saw the Dwayne Dedmon deal with San Antonio, where that was similar to the Thunder, for the last couple of years, where that was a free deal for them. Like they're below the salary floor. So like, yeah, just give us Dwayne Dedmon. Who cares?
Right.
And so those kind of deals are off the table for the Thunder. So it doesn't even feel like we're going to get a smaller deal. This might be, in fact, has there ever been a completely quiet? Has Presti ever gone an entire year from the beginning of the season to the trade deadline without making a trade?
That's a good question.
It doesn't. But yeah, that Dwayne Dedmon deal, like he has 4.3 guaranteed next year. And so in the past, you could have seen them making a deal like that. And all San Antonio got was, I think, some money and a second round pick. Yeah. So it wasn't even like that exciting.
It was not exciting at all.
Not exciting at all. But those deals are kind of off the table. And so with knowing that, yeah, it basically comes down to, are they going to move Bays just to, get him, open up some minutes for him somewhere else maybe?
Yeah.
Or
I don't get the impression that Bazley's like, that he wants to go anywhere. Like he is engaged with the team.
Yeah, we haven't heard anything, and he could, because like he's active on social media. He could put out some cryptic tweet about something.
I asked Muscala the other night just about like, how did you watch Shea's All-Star thing on TNT? Like, did you? And he was like, well, and I saw that the whole team had gathered, and he said that like Darius was the one who texted everybody.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like Bays was the one who gathered everybody, for the surprise thing.
Wow, party planner Bays. That's great.
Yeah. I mean, he's still fully engaged with this team. I think part of him enjoys being here, which, watch like an outsider looking in, just watching the games, you feel like, why would he even want that?
Yeah.
But then just talking to players, like the players really like him, and he's like fully engaged with being a teammate, with these guys still, regardless of his role on the team. So, I mean, I don't think they're just going to look to trade him just to trade him. One, because I don't think he's trying to push his way out. If he was, then I think they probably would. If he's just like, man, I need to get another opportunity, I'm sure that they would, help him find one. But that just doesn't, from what I've seen and observed, that just does not seem to be the case.
Well, in that case, nothing's happening, Andrew.
I know that's kind of how I feel too. I still wouldn't be surprised by a Darius Bazley trade at this point. I don't think you get a lot for him. I mean, you play a game last night that you basically just play the guys to win, and he doesn't play. Like that's sends a pretty clear message to me. So I do think that you can look at the roster and say, like, yeah, we kind of like all of these guys, and they can even just let Baisley walk in free agency. Like you don't have to get a protected second for him.
Right. Yeah.
There might not even be one of those available. And if that's the case, you might as well just keep him, see if you can even do a sign and trade for a trade exception in the summer. Just get a tiny trade exception and just move on. Like that might be something that you would do if you're the Thunder. So I'm not convinced that they're going to do anything or be involved in any way just because.
And they have the favors TPE, which is 10 million or around 10 million.
Yeah, but it lasts till October.
Well, but also if they absorb someone into that would push them over the tax. So it would necessitate another deal to then get back under the tax.
Yeah,
so it's
that's
not as easy.
That's why you could use that this summer,
Yeah.
the TPE and not necessarily use it now. So
what'd you think about the James Wise? John Hollinger wrote an article on The Athletic talking about the Warriors, but he did the math, and if they moved off of James Wiseman for nothing, they got back a pick or something, they would save $131 million between this season and next season. They'd immediately save around $50 million this year, and then even more next year, which it's hard to do next year exactly because we don't know if they're going to sign Draymond or whatever, but it could be like around $131 million. And I know that like all these guys are rich and like, who cares? And why are you watching other guys' pockets? But that's crazy for a guy who doesn't play in the rotation. Can you imagine that scenario in Oklahoma City, like back in the tax days, if there was a player that was contributing that heavily to the tax and wasn't playing at all?
They'd be gone. And at this point, if you're the Warriors, like you have to pay somebody to take him.
Which means they're probably not going to move him before tomorrow.
Yeah, probably not.
Which is just wild. I mean,
with him, proposition is just not there. Like you can't get a player back. I mean, the Thunder would laugh about, and the Thunder aren't trading Kenrich Williams. Like I can't say that enough. But if they were trading him, like the Thunder would laugh at the idea of a James Wiseman for Kenrich Williams trade. Just like, no, like what are you talking about?
And it feels like for him and Moody, like when is it going to get better though? Like what is the scenario where those guys increase their value?
They would just have to get better. It's the only way that it happens.
But I mean, like we saw James Wiseman because we were getting blown out, but and Moody played a little bit in that game. But man, for those guys to get consistent minutes to the point where another team would be like, okay, I'm ready to buy in on one of these guys for an actual good return. It just doesn't feel like that's happening either.
No, I mean, the only way I could see it is if like they both train like crazy hard in the off season and just like become actual rotation pieces where they just play, even if they only play 10 minutes a night. And you're like, but you can point to it and be like, hey, look, actually contributing. And I think that he could spread his wings somewhere, but like you can't even see that. Like there's not even that.
I know. And the fact that none of the like because I don't know if I consider OKC in like the true rebuild mode anymore. We're just trying to like acquire young assets and try people out.
Yeah.
The fact that none of those teams are like falling over themselves to try to go get these guys just to try them out. Like for instance, like the Utah Jazz, they have Jared Vanderbilt and apparently are open to trading him. Like the fact that they're not offering him up for Moses Moody, for instance, to just bring in and see what you got.
Yeah.
And maybe a deal like that happens, but it's just weird.
I would just rather have a pick than either one of those guys. I would just rather have a pick.
What kind of pick, Andrew?
I don't care.
You don't even care.
I don't even care.
You don't even care what the pick is.
I don't even care.
Doesn't even need to be for the NBA.
Nope.
You just want to pick.
Just give me a guitar pick. I'll be fine.
Wow. I mean, I still have a little hope for Moody, and
Yeah.
I would still just like to see these guys on another team. Like, just
Yeah.
send them to Houston for the rest of the season. Just not
Don't do that to them. Don't do that. Send him to send him to Charlotte.
Sure, yeah.
Where they
Send
have
them to
like,
Charlotte.
actual coaching and an actual point guard. Like, send them there. I could see them. They would play a lot there, and so like let's just see what they are.
Maybe not if they got to get off Mason Plumlee first, because they're addicted to playing Mason Plumlee.
Maybe Plum Dog goes back to the Warriors.
Okay. Because
Yeah.
I did see, I forget who the report was yesterday, but they were talking about the idea of packaging those two guys in an attempt to get a rotation player back. And Plum Dog might be about as good as you can do right now.
Yeah, that's really sad. That is like really, really sad.
I mean, we like Plum Dog, but
I mean, that would be like the equivalent of like, as far as like the picks go, it'd be like trading Chet and J-Dub for Plum Dog.
yeah. Yeah.
Like, that is so bad, man. That is so bad that they couldn't capitalize. Like, you had this like golden chance to select at least whatever to the Moody pick. Like, that's fine. Like, I'm kind of with you. I still believe that Moody's has a chance to make it in the league. He's still super young and he can shoot. So like, yeah, like I'll give that guy a chance. But you had this like golden opportunity with the number 2 pick with still your entire roster intact, and you just blow it because it was a hard draft too to analyze because it's COVID year. You don't even have the draft in person. Like, you have this. Like, it was such a weird year for the draft. But I mean, they blew it significantly by taking him, and you know, he's 7'1", 230 or whatever he is, got the crazy long wingspan. You know, didn't play a whole lot at Memphis, but when he did, like, just kind of tore it up. Like, yeah, you could see why, like, physically why you would want to take a guy like that, but you know, that's a problem. That's a problem, and that was where apparently ownership had a huge thing, you know. And you look at the Warriors and the Bob Myers situation. Like, one of the biggest differences between Sam Presti and Bob Myers is ownership that exists above them and like what they're doing. You know, when the owner of the Warriors is doing his own scouting and is stepping in and like wanting to like be a part of the decision-making group, like, man, like, can you imagine Clay Bennett like bringing his big board to Sam Presti and saying like, this is who I think we should take? Like, thank God, no. You know, like, that is like one of the problems with like the Warriors and like why they are where they are today. Cause like, if they took, even if they were just like, yeah, we just need a big defensive wing that can shoot, and they like took Pat Williams at 2, like, that would have been a stretch, but like Pat Williams would help the Warriors like a lot right now. Like, you don't even have to go to LaMelo, who like should have been the guy for them. And it's not like this was some great draft, but like, even getting Pat Williams, and a lot of people are like, well, they should have taken Tyrese Halliburton. Like, no one was taking Tyrese Halliburton at 2. Like, that was just not going to happen. But yeah, just to fumble the second pick like that, it's devastating, and it leaves them in such a weird spot where John Hollinger's writing a piece about how you could save $150 million by trading away the number 2 pick who just can't contribute. You know, it's just, it's wild.
Yeah, it takes a lot to kind of recognize a sunk cost and to make that move. Like, I recognize that must be really hard when you choose a guy that high.
Yeah.
And you're obviously choosing him that high because you really believe in him. And then to come to the reality that it might not work out, or at least might not work out with you.
Yeah.
And then to move on from that guy. Like, I mean, this is why Okafor stayed around in Philly for so long.
Yeah.
But then there was someone like Anthony Bennett where like multiple teams in a row made the decision evaluation like, okay, this isn't going to work.
He didn't play his full rookie contract.
I know. Yeah, but like he got traded to Minnesota in that deal for
Yeah.
K-Love,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
like they kept him. They played him 57 games, and he was already gone.
yeah. They were totally out. Yeah, it's tough. It's tough. And I don't think the Rockets are in like the same space with Jalen Green, just because I think
No, I mean he's been way more productive, even if it's been inefficient. He's
he
been
can really play. But
Yeah.
also you look at like, man, Evan Mobley would be pretty great.
Yeah.
Instead. But it's not quite you can still feel hope for a guy like Jalen Green.
No, I think the thing that's scary about those type of guys is like, okay, they're clearly productive. They're clearly going to be in the league a long time. Am I going to have to pay them a lot of money simply because of that, and not because they're actually going to be a winning player long term? And you just don't know yet. And when are you going to know? You probably won't know before he's up for his max extension, which he'll probably just get because he was a second pick and he's been productive.
Yeah. No, I mean, he is going to get the max extension.
Yeah.
Like, he's going to get it. And I don't know if they're ready for that, but last thing before we go. Did you watch the Rising Stars draft on
I did not. I saw that you were tweeting about it in midday. So I was like, oh, it must not be a busy day for Andrew. He's able to tweet all of these picks out.
Yeah, it was complete psycho behavior on my part. I actually, Dave DeFore and I were set to record, and I texted him and said, "Can I just watch this Rising Stars draft first?" Like a complete psychopath. But it was cool. It was fun. Darren Williams, man, before it started, was talking about how he admitted on this little it was on the NBA app, but he just freely admitted that I don't have League Pass and I haven't watched much of these guys this year before he went into it. And then he proceeds to take Şengün and Jalen Green, which is just like high comedy for me. It was just really funny.
And meanwhile, Jabari is going to get a play with Giddey and J-Dub.
Yeah, Jabari went 16th in this draft, which was quite late in the draft. Like Jose Alvarado went before him. Josh Giddey went 4th overall in the draft. J-Dub went 9th. They're both on Team Noah.
That was a steal for J-Dub at 9.
Yeah, it's definitely a steal. Yeah, I think that Joakim Noah's team is going to be really fun to watch. It's all meaningless stuff. Like who cares? Like where these guys are picked or who picks them and whatnot. But it was just kind of fun to watch those guys to do it. Jared Greenberg was the guy that was hosting it, and he was perfect. He was awesome in it. Whose name? There's somebody's name that was mispronounced. I'm trying to remember who it was. And it was definitely mispronounced by Jay Will, who just was strangely clueless throughout he took Franz Wagner second in the draft, but called him Franz Wagner.
Oh man.
Which is just like, oh my gosh. Like he freely admitted that he didn't watch, and then obviously is not paying attention to what's going on. If you're calling him Franz Wagner, like as a Magic fan, you have to be excited that like Paolo got picked first and Franz got picked second, but you have to feel a little less good about it whenever he called him Franz Wagner. But to Jared Greenberg's credit, he was like, he corrected him immediately. I was like, thank you.
Oh, that's good.
But yeah, the Rising Stars challenge will be really fun next Friday night, right? Should be really fun.
Yeah, and you're going.
I'll be there live and in person watching the game.
Good for you.
Yeah, it should be fun. All right. It does feel weird.
Any last bold prediction, Andrew? Give me a big name that's going to move tomorrow.
Oh man, big name that's going to move tomorrow. Russell Westbrook? Is that a big enough name for you?
I guess. I guess that'll have to do. Okay, how many of the 4 Raptors guys, Fred VanVleet, OG, Gary Trent Jr., Siakam, are on Raptors on Friday? How many of those 4?
I think 2 of those guys get moved.
Okay.
I think Gary Trent and Fred VanVleet get moved.
That's exciting.
Yeah, I think both those guys get moved. Maybe somebody will come with just a dumb offer for OG.
Well, I
I
forgot who wrote it, but the idea that Kyrie moving and now KD being in limbo may have cooled the OG offers down a little bit if those same teams would just rather pursue KD this summer or whenever he potentially becomes available. I thought that was a good point.
Yeah.
And too bad for Toronto.
Prediction is Durant getting moved.
That's your bold prediction.
In the next 24 hours.
Kevin Durant. Wow.
That'd be pretty wild. I did this fake trade video, which you can go watch. The Athletic NBA show. We started a YouTube channel like a couple weeks ago. You can go watch this on. Just search the Athletic NBA show. Dave DeFore and I came up with 8 fake trades for Kevin Durant, and it's just so interesting to think about because, like, there's no real favorite in the West. There's not even like a great team in the West, like a really good team in the West. They just don't exist. If any of those teams got Durant, I think they would instantly be the favorite. So I just think it's very interesting. Like New Orleans, Memphis, Phoenix, like any of those teams, if they could somehow get a hold of Kevin Durant at the trade deadline, I think it would instantly make them the favorites. And right now, like who are you picking out West right now? It's like to win the West.
I feel like you have to pick the Nuggets. Like what other team? Like we watched the Clippers this week. Everything is so hard for them.
They're one of them along with Miami are like 2 of the roughest watches in the league.
They are, but I can't even tell you like what they do well. What they do well
is they have Kawhi Leonard and Paul George.
But even those guys, like especially towards the end of that game against the Nets, I was just like not impressed.
They did enough to get you there, but like their offense is just it like exists in like from like mid range to 3-point range. Like they just can't get to the hoop.
I don't know who else I would pick. And I'm not going to pick Sacramento. I'm not going to pick Memphis right now. Memphis could make a trade that would change my mind, but I'm not going to pick them.
I know.
I feel like I have to pick Denver. And if Denver makes any type of move for a rotation player, which they potentially could do with Bones Highland, if he has some interest around the league, that would really make me feel good about them.
Yeah, back to Darren Williams, who was just atrocious in this little draft. He picked Bones Highland. He's like a guy who's a big part of what they're doing in Denver. Bones Highland. It's like, bro, like he's actively on the trade block and has gotten D&Ps recently. Like, what are you talking?
And it's like actually kind of awkward.
Yeah, things are not good there. It's so weird, man. It's so weird. But yeah, I guess I just my pick for the West right now is I don't have a pick for the West. Like I want to see what happens tomorrow, and then I may not even have a real. That's what will be exciting. Is like, I think Denver is the most likely, but when you look at like their statistical profile, like they don't profile as a team that gets out of the West. So the West playoffs could be pretty wild. Like I don't know how you pick it.
Especially when the Thunder are in it. Especially when the Thunder make it.
The Thunder in it. How are you feeling about the Thunder today? They sit at 11th currently, a half game back of Utah.
I'm not super worried about Utah. I mean, we'll learn a lot about Utah tomorrow.
They're likely to trade away pieces that have been helping them.
They've been helping them. So really the only team in terms of that last spot, because I've given up on the Lakers. I mean, we'll see. Maybe if they make a big move tomorrow, I'll feel differently. But they're 5 games under 500.
I
watched them. They're not good. So it's really just comes down to the Blazers and Thunder in that case.
I know. And
pretty wild. Next Friday, they're going to be here. the Thunder. I will hopefully be at the game. Still looking for reasonable price tickets. So yeah, it comes down to those two teams.
You look at the statistical profile of these two teams. The Thunder are 13th in net rating. The Blazers are 20th in net rating. The Thunder are 12th in defense. The Blazers is not good. 27th in defense. And then offensive rating, which is the Blazers are 5th in offense. Like, that's great. Thunder are 15th. But a team that's like trying to scrap and win, like, you'd rather them have the better defense than offense.
It's
like,
wild how a year ago these same games felt so important against the Blazers because of the reverse standings.
Oh, I
and
know.
a year later, same
later.
games are still super important for the complete opposite reason.
The opposite way. Yeah.
I'm going to get to go to a Thunder game in Portland and actually cheer for my home team and not the other team.
Yeah.
I won't be cursing Isaiah Roby this time.
Oh, man. Yeah, that was terrible. That was just awful. I'm glad it worked out for the Thunder anyways. That was awful. Oh my gosh. Okay. Enjoy the trade deadline. We will have another podcast for you guys recapping everything. Even if the Thunder don't do anything, we're going to recap the trade deadline on Friday morning. So look out for that. If something does happen, we'll pop on here, do an emergency pod. I don't know what the level of emergency pod would have to be. Is a Darius Baisley for a second round pick enough for an emergency pod? I would say
a little 10, 15 minute one.
Yeah, we could do a little 10 minutes on the history of Darius Baisley with the Thunder.
Yeah. But yeah, if it's anything like smaller where they take a contract for a second, that wouldn't be. However, if they like renegotiate some pick protections, yeah, we're hopping on.
Yeah, it's gonna get dorky. All right. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day. We'll talk to you guys again on Friday.